I am Captain Spawn, and this is day 339 of Spawn Year. Freakadew decided today that the time might pass more quickly if we both read all the dialogue in these comics aloud, as if rehearsing for a play. At first I refused. A lot of McFarlane dialogue sounds even less like something an actual person would say when spoken aloud, but Freakadew wouldn't take no for an answer. And one of the few consistent things about Freakadew is that if you go along with one of his fixations for a while, he'll eventually get hung up on something else. Except when it's some ongoing work in progress like the popsicle sticks he was saving for the Billy Kincaid teddy bear. Freakadew did every voice except for Spawn's, even Jim Downing when he doesn't look like Spawn, saying that Spawn's the only character I sound like. I couldn't really argue with that. As ridiculous as it was at first, our little dramatic reading made me realize that this book is suddenly having fun again. It's gotten completely away from that faux sophisticated thriller stuff and completely embraced the over-the-top escapist adult superhero action book it started out as. This issue is a total throwback to those earliest issues, and while the last few have danced around that style, this one time travels all the way back and makes it look and feel a lot like what made the book so popular initially. It's a little cartoony, it's colorful, it has the differently sized and colored words and balloons for emphasis, lots of varied panel layouts, really dramatic poses, and exciting dynamic slugfest where Spawn and some hulking opponent bust up everything in their wake. I hope readers' interest was piqued by this return to form because I want the rest of Spawn Year to look like this. Don't get me wrong, the storytelling still isn't brilliant, I'm still not sold any more on Jim than I was on Al, and my nostalgia for those early weeks when this book was fun even when it wasn't good might be clouding my judgment, despite even getting it through the cipher of a Freakadew performance. We're introduced to our new bounty hunter, Malcolm, in kind of a neat and unusual way. The stripper tells her friend the story of a date she had with him, painting him as the last gentleman left on Earth. She provides a lot of good details, and it's not altogether typical or cliche. Malcolm, from her perspective, sounds warm, considerate, street smart, and gracious, and the picture I had of him in my head was nothing like the hulking, thug-like figure he turns out to be. But I can tell by the dreamy look in his eyes watching his new girlfriend at the club that he really is in love and that there's a feeling human being there. This is advanced stuff from McFarlane, making me like this guy before I meet him, turning the typical mob thug stereotype on its head. Malcolm is retired and trying to go the straight and narrow, but the man who hired the extractor to nab Jim tries to strong-arm him into finishing the job. I'm not sure why he's waited so many issues, but Endgame was so drawn out it's probably only been a week, and maybe this guy had a Nerds with Piercings convention to go to or something. He threatens Malcolm's girlfriend, offers him a boatload of cash, and finally makes it personal by mentioning that Jim Downing is patient 47 when Malcolm, patient 46, believed he was the last. Couldn't the boss have persuaded him more early if he just led with that? The risk bad guys take for the sake of being dramatic. So now we've got two adversaries, Jim and Malcolm, who each want answers from the other, and Malcolm has little choice but deliver Jim to his boss, assuming he can catch him. We're treated to a spectacular fight that I find myself at least a little invested in for once. Malcolm, in a surprise turn, wants to take the both of them out, believing that Jim's spawn form proves those awful experiments were finally successful in re-engineering the body, and takes it upon himself to make sure the media doesn't see him and broadcast it. A former criminal trying to go straight, deeply cares about a girl, and he's kinda noble? Why can't Spawn ever be this guy? Well, he couldn't have his own book anywhere. McFarlane would get sued by Mark Millar for ripping off this costume design from Kick-Ass. Meanwhile, Mark has to quit his job after a stereotypical exploitive greedy boss steals a story from him and calls up every news network in town to spill Jim's miracle worker status. And at the end, a bunch of reporters get him on camera when he comes out of some rubble in the fight, conveniently looking like Jim Downing instead of Spawn, just to get this dramatic ending. The story possibilities are potentially fascinating. We have a Spawn who is totally public, almost out the gate, and who everyone's starting to say is the second coming. With the amnesia bit at the start of this story, I was worried this would be the same thing all over again, and I still have my reservations, but now that McFarlane's going to explore a world that knows about the supernatural despite retconning Armageddon, he might really have something here. But he needs to stick with this tone and pacing, and I bet we're only suddenly moving at a more traditional, reasonable pace because we're so close to another landmark. Why, oh why, can't every 10 issues be a big special event? And if McFarlane isn't going to keep drawing, can we keep this Carey Randolph guy? It's reverential to McFarlane's old style, and there's an energy and charm to it I've missed from this series. Please give me more of this, and let this not be another tease. Oh, I'm sure I'm just giving my hopes up. Better expect a Curse of the Spawn level effort next time. Signed, Captain Spawn.